Today, Australia is considered to be a paradise with people from all over the world wanting to come and live here. Portuguese, Dutch and English sailors, and perhaps even the ancient Phoenicians, had been visiting the north and western coastal areas of Australia, but no one at that time knew how big the land was. In 1770, Captain Cook sailed the Endeavour into Botany Bay and claimed the country in the name of the King of Great Britain. Some years later, Governor Phillip sailed from Britain with a fleet of convict ships and arrived at Botany Bay in January 1788. The first colony expanded quickly within 20 years to over 10,000. Settlers spread throughout the area, towns became cities, and by 1859 the Australian continent had been divided into the 6 colonies we now know as states. Because of the enormous distances between what became capitals in the new states, a central administration was not practical, and the British Parliament passed the Australian Colonies Government Act, enabling parliaments to be established in each of the colonies. In 1891, 7 representatives from each colony met in Sydney for the National Australasian Convention. The convention established a subcommittee responsible for drafting a new constitution. This committee drafted a document which, although based on the British system, also incorporated provisions from the constitutions of the United States, Canada and Switzerland. Referendums were held across the 5 states, and in May 1900, the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act was passed by the British Parliament, was signed by Queen Victoria and became law. On the 1st of January 1901, the Commonwealth of Australia was proclaimed in Centennial Park in Sydney, and later that year, the first Commonwealth Parliament was opened in Melbourne, where Edmund Barton was elected as the first Prime Minister of Australia. While our Constitution was originally established by an Act of the British Parliament, the Australian Constitution wasn't a British creation, but was specially drafted by Australian statesmen to suit the requirements of what was to become the new country of Australia. All nations have an immense power, which is made up of its land and the people who inhabit it. An individual controlling this power is called a dictator. The world has seen many dictatorships. Over the past few hundred years, a system was developed to better control this power through various checks and balances. This system is called a constitutional monarchy, where the monarch or governor-general is checked by the parliament, and where the parliament is checked by the monarch or governor-general and the courts, and where all are checked by the people. It's a system that has been refined over the centuries. And while there are some inadequacies, it does work, as has been proven in Australia, which has had no civil wars or major constitutional crises in its 100 years of existence as a constitutional monarchy. Thanks to the checks and balances provided by the Constitution, Australia has always operated well and continues to do so. If the protection of the Constitution was ever to be removed, Australia would have little to gain and much to lose. Please help to protect our Constitution. To learn more, visit www.monarchist.org.au.